Welcome to Nourishing the Mother, an inspired conversation space between Bridget Wood and Julie Tenner on the journey of motherhood through the common thread of parenting, relationship, and sexuality as a path to consciousness.
We keep our conversations honest, our experiences real, and our philosophies exploratory. We believe that in order to raise incredible humans, we first have to raise ourselves. We know that in order to rock the family, you've got to nourish the mother. If you are here, you care about paving a path of conscious and intentional motherhood, connected with yourself and your gifts, and also illuminating your children in theirs so we may raise more whole humans who can impact this world in a more humane way.
If you desire to integrate your learnings practically and supportively, head on over to bridgetwood.life or julietenner.love to go deeper. And for all live-streamed pre-release podcasts and all our free content, head over to our free Facebook group, Nourishing the Mother with Bridget Wood and Julie Tenner. We are Julie Tenner and Bridget Wood, and we are so grateful you're here.
Hello and welcome to Nourishing the Mother. I'm Bridget Wood.
And I'm Julie Tenner. And today's podcast is the 3 things that no one tells you about that are running your Christmas experience.
Oh, it's so juicy.
I'm so excited actually to do this podcast.
Yes, me too. Me too. So we want to kick it off with actually, first off, being really aware of what it is that you're plugging into at this time of year.
You have to be so aware because we forget all of the time we are filtering the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, filtering it. There is no reality. There's your reality, right? And what it's made up of. And so this particular time of year, as we head into Christmas, there is a whole bunch of media, of, sociology around us, represented in all the people we're in contact with, that rehashes a lot of fear-based stories around this time of year.
Yes.
That for many of them, are actually, I would say handed down, right? So the news article that you read about the challenges people are going to have to afford Christmas this year because of inflation taps back for you to this cellular ancient memory of your grandparents getting through the Depression or your parents fighting over money when you were a child, right? Mm-hmm. And so we get these little hits of these things outside of us that remind us on some level of something that we've feared before and that we are to continue to fear in the future. Mm. And they work to reaffirm the belief that we have about it. And they work to reaffirm, our own anxiety.
I think we forget also that the filter works in such a way that you will only see the titles as you scroll through Facebook or through the newspaper on your phone or as you're flicking channels, or whatever. We will only see the titles that ping out at us that we read will only be the ones that actually still fit the belief system and narrative that we have, that we continue to reinforce by being aware of the things that reinforce it and prove it right. And so we just keep staying in this cycle.
Yeah. It's so wild to me. And
it's so wild to me too.
Well, the geeks out there. So it's a part of your brain called the reticular activating system. So it's this RAS. It's this part of your brain that is very clever at filtering out what you don't need according to your own values and beliefs and honing in and allowing to jump out at you the things that are part of your story. And so this is a time of year where, people who have challenging stories around Christmas as a child or, hurt or pain, that's when, the media articles like I just talked about, totally send you off the deep end.
Totally send you off the deep end. And I also, you and I, Bridgie, both know that in this space, you as a listener of this podcast, actually also at the same time as often holding that kind of shit and baggage and money stuff and abundance stuff and, all the things on the other hand, are also holding this huge desire to create this little abundant bubble of connection and love and ritual and almost like a nervous system kind of seduction into this beautiful experience of Christmas that perhaps you even have no blueprint for.
Yeah. I mean, for some, it's even just feeling safe in their nervous system.
Yes.
And then the next thing from there is like, oh, like heart bursting, like joy, right? Or just this overwhelming magic.
Yeah, totally. I just love that we're doing parenting as well as podcast. This is our life. Welcome.
Yes.
So, where we want to actually begin this conversation, well, let me just give you a run through so that you're aware as we dive into this podcast where we're headed. Where we're headed is we want to focus with you on 3 main points that we see come up over and over and over again for the conscious mamas within our space, and that you will not hear discussed anywhere else, but that are foundational and lie underneath everything that's driving the experience that you're currently having. So where we would really like to take this conversation today, the 3 points being, let's bring the unconscious conscious. Let's talk about your nervous system vibe and law of attraction. And then let's talk about, this one I'm going to love, it is also a bit sticky for most of us, is the altruism and frugality mindset. So you're in for a ride, listeners.
Yes, you really are. You really are. And as I bring my nervous system back down because of the parenting I've had to do in this podcast for the child who keeps coming in this room, I am living and breathing this work.
I'm going to start it while you do some breathing. Okay, let's start with bringing the unconscious conscious. What we mean by that is it is very wise just to spend a cup of tea. You don't have to make this a huge deal. Just to have a quiet cup of tea with yourself. It's like having a self date, taking yourself out on a date, and just asking yourself, what are the unconscious stories that you can sense are running you at this time of year? Like you think about December.
Yeah.
What are the unconscious stories that come up for you? And just have a clean piece of paper next to you and just write and write and write just for a cup of tea.
Yeah.
Just get curious.
It can be helpful even to have a couple of words just to prompt you. So you could start with like the festive season is, or Christmas is, and just have that written like 10 times as a prompt for your consciousness to spill out and your subconscious what is driving you and what is stored there, so that you can see on paper, wow, this is the picture of how I feel and what I'm believing and essentially then for attracting at this time of year.
Totally. So we would love you to have that cup of tea date with yourself, spill it all out on paper. It's really important you actually put it out on paper, because that whole concept of free flow while journaling actually is a way of bypassing your conscious brain that strategizes and likes to maintain your identity. So can filter, if you just keep it as a thinking thought, can filter actually what your unconscious belief system is.
Yeah. It's so good, because when you do stream of consciousness, you're asking yourself not to filter, and therefore you're dropping the morality or the ego around it, and you're just letting come out what's there. No one else has to read it. No one else has to see it. It's just for you to see what's underneath it all.
So once you see that, what we'd love you to do is almost then just look at it and go, okay, I could almost group these things. I could see that I've got this belief and this. There's rarely going to be more than 2 or 3 beliefs that are driving everything that happens for you and your nervous system, and overwhelm and dysregulation and struggle. There's really going to be more than 2 or 3 things that happen. So we want you to kind of group those beliefs just in a way to go, okay, these 3 things, wow, they're there. And then what we want you to do is just start to bring online that extra level of conscious awareness as you move through your life in December, and recognize when you are connected and truly in alignment with who you are now and into the future of who you're becoming, and when who actually is running that driver's seat is old you, child you, because you're recognizing what's dictating your behavior in this moment is the belief or fear of this thing that you've just discovered. Does that make sense? I feel like I complicated that bridge.
Yeah, no, it does.
Up for me?
It does. And I also think, and this might clean it up, but very often this kind of self-sabotaging behavior can actually feel like you can't escape it. Like you'll find yourself doing it and be like, what am I doing this for again? Because even though it's deeply uncomfortable, there's a level of safety in it because you know it.
Totes.
Right? Like it's kind of addictive because you know it.
Better the devil you know.
Yeah. And so I love what you were saying, Julie, about that difference in your body. Like you can feel when it's like heart aligned. You can feel when you're like really on solid ground and you're anchored in your own authenticity and like you're where you want to be, versus that very heady, sped up, like anxiety edge where, you know, the stories that consume you put you.
Yeah, and probably getting triggered by your kids in that point in time too.
Yeah, so you're more heightened. Your nervous system is more heightened, and so potentially also you might find yourself like hypervigilant as well, which means like, you know, that when that gap between like the stimulus and your reaction is like non-existent, then it's usually because all this other noise is running you. Yeah. And so this process is so beautiful for you to then see, this is what I'm continuing to run into. This is what's building my anxiety or my frustration or my short fuse.
Totally. So this such the interesting thing, and Bridget, you tell me if you have a different view of this, but I love being able to see where I've got a block or I go, wow, I didn't know that was sitting in my unconscious. I love those moments and that information. I don't use it against me as a weapon. I don't use it as a way to beat myself up. I don't use it as a strategy for self-sabotage. I use it as this point of enlightenment. I go, wow, that's so cool to know that. Because now when I have a moment where I'm feeling offline, I get to check who's driving this bus, who's in charge, who's at the wheel right now of my life.
Oh, I love that. Who's at the wheel right now of my life?
Like how I just love, because you can so beautifully say where I can go, oh, fuck, I'm saying no to my child right now because I'm holding that this belief system is going to happen or might happen or will happen or is happening. Yeah. Oh, shit, I'm completely in charge. Who's running my life right now is the belief that says this is true. But I know that's old. I know that's outdated. I know that was my childhood experience, not how grown up, you know, woman of consciousness me knows the world to be.
That kind of, you know, tuning into your own rigidity has so much wisdom in it. Yeah. If we can hold what you're saying there, which is curiosity, like to not collapse inward on yourself, to not, you know, crumble because you realize you've got this thing that you see or perhaps have shame around, to instead go, oh, wow, that's like an amazing piece of information. What can I do with it now that I see it and I can't unsee it?
Isn't that the greatest thing? Once you see something, you can't unsee it.
Yeah. And it can be like really wild because you can go, holy shit, like my mum said that to me for years. My you know, friends who I've associated with have also reaffirmed that. And you realize how you perhaps built like a whole world around that viewpoint. Yeah. And then you go, oh, wow. And then the juiciness with that is to then go, I'm not going to therefore make everybody wrong or like throw the baby out with the bathwater with that knowledge, but instead go, oh, okay, I've reached a different level of awareness now with this, and I can hold your continuing reality with this new reality that I'm now striving for, and I'm now asking my nervous system to stretch into and meet.
So good. I just love it. So if you're not already inspired, get ready for point number 2. Which is your nervous system vibe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Like, who you being, girlfriend, during this time?
Yeah. And if you know you're being like the mother that you don't want to be, then first of all, huge amount of self-compassion, because it is an activating time for many, many people. Yeah. So first of all, self-compassion. Notice I'm going down a train track I don't want to go down. What do I need to pull the brakes? What do I need right now to take a breath? What space do I need to put myself in that feels like a love note to my nervous system?
Yeah. Oh,
Do I
yeah.
need to get outside? Do I need to go to the beach? Do I need to tag team with my partner or a family member so I can just get some time with myself again and realign to what I know I've just identified in step one is I'm stuck in a story again, is I'm stuck on a loop again.
What I love that you've just said over and over again, and I hope our listeners heard it, and if you didn't, please go back and play that part again and just regulate your nervous system through it, is what do I need? What do I need? Do I need? Do I need? Do I need? I don't know if you listen to Bridget reel off about 15 do I needs, what do I needs, for most women who are very messed up about having needs.
Yeah.
Let alone having the
Instead,
permission
we'll just have a
build.
We'll have like, we'll just get on with it because no one else is going to do it.
Yeah. Or there's no other option. There's no other way.
Yeah. This is the way it has to be.
Yeah. And we often are prideful in our self-sufficiency.
And protective of our values and upholding them and the identity they therefore make for us.
Right. So my advice to you would be go back to that 15 seconds and just let yourself listen to it 3 or 4 times until you can like heart openly go, oh, I'm really safe to hear I need.
Yeah.
I'm really safe to listen to Bridget's question of I can ask for what I need. Like just do that for yourself. It's a way of practicing having needs and feeling really good in that space.
Yeah. And I think too, like as mothers, particularly like the role of motherhood can be couched in a way in our society that really it's there's the erasure of the woman as she becomes a mother in her motherhood. Like even this podcast recording today, like I can hear, and this is why I don't love podcasting with my whole family at home.
I can't hear them at all.
Well, I can hear everything that's going on. And I can also layer with that. My husband is absolutely exhausted and sore. And I really have to parent myself through like not going in and like fixing or like just creating the spaciousness that I love to create for my family so everybody feels good. That's not my role right now. But sometimes I really have to work that edge to remind myself that's not my role right now. And my husband can sink or swim and that's going to be okay. And my kids are going to be okay.
Gosh, oh my gosh, that just feels so big. And I just love that you have this visceral, because I could feel it as you were saying it then, which I just is like the best moment.
Yeah.
Can we just, I don't know, I don't even know what I want from you there, Bridget, but can you just go, since you're in it right now? Because I often say this to when in couples and I'm dealing with couples, often this comes up a lot, right?
Yeah.
And I have to remind women that as we're doing this process of surrender and a different abundant mindset and calling in what we've never had before, is you can't then backseat, drive, parent, whatever, mother, him included. So I say it that way. You've said it far more, you know, like, wow, this is really my lived experience right now. Like, can you just like hone in on that a little bit?
Yeah. And I think it's also just noticing, like I have a real awareness now of like that stacking of tension in my nervous system. So like I might hear him say this in this tone, and then I might, you know, hear this, or I might see my child like coming in repeatedly for something, which it just like adds to it as well, right? And then I get to choose like, what am I making that mean, right? So there was like nothing for him to cook for breakfast because we didn't have any food because I haven't shopped. And so like, you know, the tone he used, I could make really personal, or I could just go, oh, he's frustrated. He's allowed to be frustrated. So there's not what he wants to eat, and not personalize that, right?
Oh man, biggest toolkit ever.
Yeah. And not go into a whole story that I hold on to all day and
exactly. You know. Oh my gosh, so much. Yes. I actually think this is one of the biggest struggle points for women is handling men's frustration and anger.
Yes. And I mean, like, and I think I've said this to you before, like I realized I had a whole thing around anger with my husband when I heard myself say one time, don't be angry at me. Right. Like I got into this like hurt defensive, like I'm not okay if you're angry at me.
Yeah, I think women do that a lot. I mean, I do think we could have certainly a patriarchal and lineage conversation around that, but we're not going to do that here in this podcast. No. But let's just talk around it as an experience.
Yeah.
Is that so often women can read this singular focused experience of men, which I know as a facilitator of so many men, how not personal that is. but it's almost like that experience kind of flings off of them, and the energetic frequency of that, women turn around and go, I've done something wrong. There's something wrong with me. I'm, a bad girl in some way.
Yes. So to that point, what that then means is it's just like a highway to, your story, that repeating loop, that collapse, that self-sabotage, that there's no room for me to have any needs, because when I try to have needs, he can't handle it. Or when I try to have needs, the house falls to shit. Or when I try to have needs, my kid's behavior goes off the rails. So I'm better just to be holding it all. And I'll have some time sometime. Right?
So true.
What then happens, as you know, is you get more numb, you disconnect from your body, you can't feel attracted to your partner because you can't feel, right? Because you've told yourself you told yourself you don't have any needs, right? So the need to feel something pleasurable, well, what was that even? Like, whatever, that sounds too indulgent.
Yeah.
And so then you end up way back where we started, which is, oh, right, I feel like this is my body, and, I've got all these stories. So the short answer to what I'm doing for myself through this podcast is, oh, no, I'll hand that back. No, I'll hand that back. It's okay. I'm safe here. I can show up in this way with this community right now and really trust that he's got it. And I've had to have these conversations with him to understand, oh, he's not actually angry at me. Or even if he was, he's allowed to be. Like he said to me before, he's like, you're allowed to be angry at me. I'm like, oh, wow. Like I just really needed to have that permission.
Wow. I have permission to just be angry at you without it dissolving our relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I grew up in a house where anger wasn't safe. So you can bet I hold a shit ton of space for my kids' anger.
It's so good.
But it still shows up in relationship, right? Like you bump into it. And so you'll bump into it at Christmas.
Yeah, you will.
As well, if that's a big story.
Yeah. Yeah. I just love your idea of almost like suitcases, like going, oh, hang on, I've picked this up. Oh, no, that's not mine. I'm just going to hand that back.
Yeah.
Pop it over there. That's not mine. Back you go. I don't need to hold it. Like, I love that, even just in its simplicity. I think it's incredibly beautiful. And
I think too, we can really recognize the value of that in the boundaries that we hold for ourselves and our children at Christmas as well. Like, because I know that for some parents who have maybe a money story at Christmas, which is that there's not enough, that they can go into a tailspin when their kids keep asking for things.
Yeah.
And they can sometimes get reactionary and really triggered, or they can collapse inwardly on themselves and overcompensate because they feel so guilty that they can't provide what they think that their child needs.
Yes.
Those are those kind of two extremes of that polarity. Whereas the handing a suitcase back looks like, oh, pop it on your wish list. I say that for about 8 weeks before Christmas whenever my kids ask me.
I do that too. Probably all year.
Well, it's great because my kids' birthdays, are kind of a little bit away from Christmas. So for the 2-3 months before their birthdays, it's like, pop it on your birthday wish list. And then the 2 or 3 months before Christmas, it's like, pop it on your Christmas wish list. And it just feels so freeing because it's like, no, I'm not going to hold that and make that something out of that. I'm going to get you in this process of asking you to put it on your wish list to actually self-check if that's something that you're really wishing for and that you really want, or if it's just passing, I want, right?
Yes, totally. I even just love acknowledging it, going, yeah, that's really cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And not even have anything wrapped up.
There's no solution. It's like, yeah, I agree. It's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd really want that too. If I loved blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. So good.
And just the end of just get into the excitement vibes, just match their energetic body where they're at without needing to strategize. You're out of head going, that means they want it and da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Like,
yeah.
Oh, no.
What if it's actually just a little bit like, our kids' big feelings is like, instead of making the big emotions mean X, Y, Z, it's like, well, what if I could just be with it? Like, just as you're saying, be with the excitement and like match and reflect back the excitement. Yeah. It's just the same as the other end of the scale, which is like, yeah, you're really sad right now.
Yes.
You can really feel that. Same thing.
Yeah, same thing.
You're not kind of projecting forward and going, what can we or can't we do today or next week because they're feeling like this. It's like they're just feeling like this.
Yeah. And that's so fine. Yeah. This podcast is brought to you by Create Your Own Hysterectomy Party Kit, which is a way for you to celebrate, honour and process hysterectomy and vaginal prolapse surgery with your friends in a hilariously funny and bonding event. So you can grab that kit from julietenner.love/hysterectomy. And Bridge, what have you got going on in the world?
The Christmas Survival Guide. So this is your free guide to get you through December, to help you feel supported, nourished, and like someone's got your back in the overwhelm and chaos that can be the festive season. So hop on there at bridgetwood.life and you'll get weekly emails to support you as you get through this crazy, beautiful, intense time of year.
And in fact, I'm doing this quite regularly whenever, because I still have my preschooler obviously home with me and she comes everywhere with me. And there's this Barbie dream house that is like in every Kmart and Target and Myer, and it's this big kahuna. It's like $250.
I can totally imagine.
It is.
It'd be the thing you would never want in your house.
I'm like, and where the heck am I even putting that? Like, there's no way that I'm getting this Barbie enormous 3/4 of a room dream house.
Yes.
But she is obsessed with it.
Yeah.
And so every time we go in, of course, she, like her value system and her filtering, she will see that fucker. It doesn't matter where we are. Right. And so every time I'm at a shop, I have to stand in front of this fucking Barbie dream house and be like, yeah, it's so cool. Look at that elevator that goes up and down. Look at those lights. Yeah, I would want carpet just like that too. So it's like, I know I'm never buying it.
Yeah. But you don't need to tell her that.
No, and I don't need to collapse into it either.
Yeah.
You know, I can just be like, yeah, it's really exciting. It's pretty cool.
You can just play with it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I totally, I actually really love this conversation. But I do want to wrap it around back to our nervous system vibe. Because often what happens is, what I want you to understand is that you are an energetic frequency that is being read by your body, not your strategizing mind. Remember, your biggest energetic field, the law of attraction, the law of manifestation, everything comes from your frequency, which is your body. It is your vibe. It is how you're feeling. It is the tension or lack of tension in your body that sends out a signal that the universe responds with and everybody within it. So we have to really understand that the experience that you are having is based on what your nervous system is doing versus what you're wishing it was.
Yeah.
What you're thinking it should be. And the bigger the difference between those two places, I wish it was like this. I wish for this experience. My intention is this. And instead, my experience is fucking this because my body and my frequency and my tension and my overwhelm is creating my lived experience of this. We will see, we build bigger fantasy nightmare dynamics, bigger polarizations. So the more we will herald, I wish it was this. Living my daily nightmare, and resentment will then ensue and consume your December.
I love how you spell that out. Yeah.
We have to be so careful and aware, which is why this whole conversation has happened around needs, which I think is perfect, because we want you to think about self-care and self-mastery being around your nervous system being.
And so what are therefore, what need to become your non-negotiable things or practices around that?
Yeah, totally. So that is point number 2, is what is your nervous system vibe? Point number 3 is, and get ready for it because we love this one, is our altruistic value system that can have us really meeting frugality versus consumerism.
Yeah, so it really kind of puts on the pedestal this idea of being frugal and, minimizing your impact on the world and not asking for much and being humble and just really like not having much needs because you care. You really care. And that is better.
Mm.
Then whatever you see the opposite being, I don't know, blatant consumerism,
Barbie dream house.
Barbie dream house, the epitome, right? The epitome of plastic heaven.
Totally.
Or maybe your triggers are wrapped up in all of the things that, the things that get gifted by family that are completely at odds with your own values. And so that totally changes how you show up in your nervous system when you even think about that person, because of what you've characterized them as.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, so much. So I just want to frame this with, this was 100% me in my mindset before I in my perception, began really opening up my money stories. This was my number one holding me back from manifesting money in my life.
So what did that look like? So let's just look at like a Christmas at that time.
Let me take you back before that, because it is obviously my childhood and my nervous system programming that was creating my reality that I was playing out.
Yeah, which is a non-celebratory.
Yeah. Yeah. So I had a dad who really, I mean, he was very yogic, very kind of Gandhi-esque, would rather have nothing and be of service to the starving children in the world on Christmas Day than do anything that had to do with anything to do with celebration, abundance, presents, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
So he, would live his life as he was evolving, and certainly, towards the end of his life, in a completely altruistic way. He trained to be a naturopath, not so he could ever make money, but so he could be of service to those who could never afford healthcare. He liked barter systems over money systems.
Yeah, wow.
So, there was, he was a totally like, let's, get out of the system, out of the rat race, fucking exit all of the consumer.
Let's go live off grid in our utopian wonderland.
Yeah, all of it.
So, sorry, keep going.
No, you go.
Well, I wanted to talk about the psychology of this, because we all exist. So everybody has parts of them that are altruistic and parts of them that are narcissistic. Altruism, underneath that, is often an attempt to compensate for shame and guilt of the past. And narcissism is compensation for pride. So they're each playing, and pride and often arrogance wrapped up in narcissism and self-righteousness. But the shame and guilt of the past, if you imagine, this idea of altruism, because just like our body is seeking homeostasis, our psychology is seeking a balance between giving and receiving. So you move too much into giving, it's almost like you're attempting to, on some level, give enough so you're worthy to exist. And if you can never give enough or care enough, then it's wise to ask questions about how worthy you actually feel in and of yourself to exist as you are. And then to work through that, and I'm interested to hear how you work through it, but is to actually look at every one of those things that you feel shame and guilt about that you're attempting to compensate for, and look at what the benefit was to you and to whatever other person was wrapped up in that shame and guilt, to the point where you wouldn't need to change that event in the past, that you can equilibrate or integrate that event. Because it's the shame and guilt that stacks up in our subconscious, essentially, that leads us to compensate with, extreme forms of altruism, which also therefore lowers our self-worth. Because if all the shame and guilt says you're not worthy, then your self-worth is also, okay, well, I'll peg my self-worth here then, if all of this stuff stored in my consciousness is saying I'm not worthy.
Yeah. Oh, man, I just loved that. So good.
I wonder how much that echoes, the part of your childhood story, but then what you came to believe.
Oh, no, all of it. Totally. No, all of it. The way that I worked with it was literally, as you said, I went back to moments where I perceived that he was, I had specific traits, but, Gandhi-esque, and really asked myself, where was he the opposite in the exact same moment?
So where was he selfish, self-serving,
judgmental,
judgmental.
prideful.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're prideful. Yeah. Because I could not even conceive that this man who worked so tirelessly to be selfless could be selfish and prideful. Like, how could that possibly be? He was so stripped of his ego, you know?
Yeah.
And yet it's fascinating when you go back to those moments and you just look at how the projection of your value system onto someone else is inherently an act of pride.
Yeah. And self-righteousness, because what you're doing is impinging on someone else's free will, your view that you're always right.
Yeah. And that therefore they're wrong. And so you're self-minimizing them and placing yourself up on a higher pedestal, which is inherently narcissistic and prideful and self-serving.
And also all of the feelings that you get as a result of giving, because you get the other person's appreciation and that energy feeds you.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. Everyone in our neighborhood was like, worshipped the feet that, worshipped at my father's feet.
And so how is that
no one more beautiful?
And
oh, yeah, totally.
Yeah.
100%, right? Like, we've always got to be aware, I think, of the law of reciprocity that exists, that even in the moment where you perceive you are giving more, the giving and receiving is always in an equal exchange. I remind myself all of the time in the moments where, I have a client say, oh my gosh, thank you so much. Couldn't have done this without you. I don't like sit there and start going, oh God, I'm so fucking fantastic. I sit there going, wow, look at this law of reciprocity here. Thank you, but also you can't see anything that you're not. And I'm getting just as much, if not more, in this exchange. So let's be super clear about that.
Exactly. Yeah, it's so powerful to have that like way to, balance yourself, right?
Yeah. What's that saying that Tanya says all of the time? Take no credit, take no blame, just stay focused on the chief aim.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can't decide you're going to take blame and flagellate yourself for all of the ways that you're wrong and then not take the credit. And you can't just take the credit and then ignore all of the stuff that is less than shiny about you. It's literally hear them both, equilibrate them both, but just stay focused on what you're here to do. Just do you.
Yeah, just do you.
So when we're looking at altruism and frugality, the other one that I really hit up against and recognized and now see so many women that come into my space is that we are often, given we have that set up in the worlds of conscious living that we run in, is that we also then have, we're incredibly prideful about our thriftiness.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, about how little I had to spend, or look what I refashioned.
Yes.
Or, look at
what I made from nothing. Look how I can make a Christmas and, spend no money and let it's way more magical than my sister-in-law who spent, I don't know, $200,000.
Yeah.
Wow. Look at me.
And of course, which the funny thing is, you keep puffing yourself up about that and you're saying how great it is. Guess what you're continuing to create. Right.
And I did this in my everyday. So I would pride myself, like keep puffing myself up every single day in multiple moments in my day about how great I could make life on so little. So you think about every day I'm hitting up that puffiness.
Yeah.
And sending out this signal of no money is great, no money is great, no money is great. No, I can so do all of this with nothing.
Yeah.
So what do I attract more of?
Nothing. Because you're doing fine on nothing, Julie. You don't need more.
Better than that. I am like fucking self-righteous as all heck on nothing.
Yeah.
So, of course, the resentment I feel towards those that have money or money seems to come easily to builds. The more I create polarization between the them and the us, the haves and the have-nots.
Yeah.
And the more I seek to, because I'm puffing myself up, then I'm coming crashing down on those polarizations. And so the more I'm seeking to puff myself up again, it's like a blood sugar hit. So I look for my communities to reinforce it. And I look for the conversations that reinforce it. And I look for the ways on Pinterest to reinforce it.
Yeah. Yeah. To make that a lifestyle. And I can see, like, it's beautiful because I can see how we do that, right? Because you kind of want to make the best of a hard situation, but not the point in which you actually reaffirm that hard situation or reaffirm.
When it's unconscious and prideful, it's a problem.
Yeah.
And I had a huge amount of pride attached to my thriftiness.
Yeah. So what was that like for you when you realized, oh, holy shit?
Well, it had to start with me busting the stories that I had on consumerist type people, the them.
Which, of course, for all of us, whatever they're like otherize, they will likely show up in our extended family or immediately family in some way.
Exactly.
Which is what they would do, which was what was happening for you.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. So I really worked consistently on opening my heart to people who had money. On loving them and seeing beyond my own filtering of their lives into what their experience actually was and what their contribution actually was. Because wrapped up in that altruism, of course, was the judgment of what it meant to be that other type of person. Based on a stereotype that was formed by a family system that I had no conscious say in.
Yeah.
So I really had to love the wealthy person in the world and see beyond the judgments and perceptions that I had of what wealthy people were. There's assholes with money, and
there's assholes with no money.
There's assholes with no money, it's true. And there's incredibly heart-centric, compassionate, socially and environmentally aware wealthy people. Money just makes you more of who you are. And there is so much good that you can do in the world with money.
Yeah.
And there is so much good that came in my nervous system from not continuously being in survival mode with money. I became a source of abundance, like money, to more people because I was no longer continuously in survival.
Yeah.
So the law of reciprocity was the same.
It's really, I love how you've talked us through this because this can be really challenging to then go.
It is. It's really challenging.
The identity that I've crafted for myself or the identity that I'd molded around this person that I've judged is actually an illusion.
Yeah. And it truly is. It truly is. Like even, right, I'm going through this whole hysterectomy journey. Yesterday, I had, a beautiful practitioner friend of ours, Kirsten Wolf from the fertility method. So highly skilled, highly sought after, hugely highly booked practitioner and incredibly self-built, wealthy single mother.
Yeah.
Now, this woman, who by all means would fit the stereotypes of an incredibly wealthy woman who could do anything with her life and her time, saw my struggle on social media and reached out and said, "I'm coming to you." Right? And I was like, yeah, sure, but I'm paying you. I'm paying for a home visit. So in walks this angel and she's beautiful. She brings me a chocolate and, we chat and, she's had a hysterectomy. So we talked about her experience and just so great to have this practitioner who worked with wombs and women. Like it was just.
Oh, how amazing.
Oh my God. For me, it was just like everything my urethra needed. And the podcast for another day.
Fantastic.
And so here she is anyway. So she spends probably an hour with me at my home, this woman who I know. So generous, right? And I said, okay, now you need to invoice me. And she went, "I'm not invoicing you." I said, "No, you have to invoice me. I have to be in this space of reciprocity. I have to feel like
fair exchange.
Yeah, there's fair exchange here. Like you have to invoice me. This would feel really good for me. This has been beautiful. I would love to pay you." And she just looked at me, she said, listen, yes, there's that, but there's also that this is my way of giving back to the universe and saying thank you to the women who did this for me when I was you.
Mm.
Oh, like I burst into tears.
Yeah, of course.
And I was like, oh, yeah, like there's this part of pay it forward that feels so abundant and overflowing and effortless when you're not in survival for money.
Yeah.
So there's altruism present in the wealth, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
They're not separate experiences.
No.
And we have so much more freedom to pay it forward in a way that is overflowing and abundant.
With that, when you're not in survival.
When you're not in survival with money and trying to get more because you need more or you're scared.
Mm.
Like there's way more. And I've been actually, do you know, I've been sitting with this a lot this year, is just watching the way in which people with money and without money move through the world in how they help and contribute to other people and experiences. People without money are far more likely to try and get quicker. Mm-hmm. If they've paid for a service and they're not getting, they'll be the first ones to complain.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
If there's something, you know, that's happening in their world, they're first ones to like get their money back, get. What am I not getting that I have? What am I not getting in the world? Versus the people with money are often the ones that are like, yeah, babe, of course. Yeah, no worries. Totally. I just want to check in about. I don't really care. It still feels really good for me, this experience, exchange, whatever.
So, and you know, that is, I think, speaks to that survival, the difference between being in survival and having to get at like things to be to reach a point of okayness, you know, and potentially there's a wrap up of, you know, of entitlement, of feeling hard done by in that versus, I can be safe here. Like, it's good. I trust you.
Yeah. They're often the wealthy people that I know, of course, because they're still in an energetic frequency like mine, are the first to volunteer. They're the first to send you a care package. They're the first to say, let me come pick your kids up.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
So don't separate altruism from wealth.
Because it's wrapped up in wealth too.
Yeah.
But likely the person who has wealth has a higher value on building wealth.
Yes. And a lot of that will have to do with the contribution that they can make with that.
And the wealth is commensurate with their ability to monetize a service, a contribution, a gift, something for others.
Yeah. So I just think it's really wise to be aware as we're entering this and as we ourselves are programming our children's nervous systems, is to be aware of when we're in lack mindsets and energetic frequencies, and when we're in abundance mindsets and frequencies that actually have nothing to do with what you label consumerist or altruistic.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, I can hear my children.
Well, maybe it's a perfect place to wrap up. We would love to hear how this nervous system went for you. Yeah. Well, how this podcast went for you, but how your nervous system went in the podcast.
We would love to hear that, because there possibly was a few points in this podcast which sent you into fight or flight or collapse, and we just send a lot of love to those parts, right? Because we've been there. We'll also circle back there. Like that is being human.
Totally human here.
But the freedom comes when you have a bit of a practice and a process for what to do there. And that's what we hope that this podcast has done. And I would love to invite you, if you want more of this and some holding through your Christmas, is to sign up on my website, bridgetwood.life, for a free survival guide, essentially, which is going to take you through 4 weeks of prep for the festive season. So the first one will be around, actually intention setting and the rituals that you want to have for your family It'll be looking at your money blocks and what those stories are. It'll be looking for, your nervous system and how to support it to meet tricky family, how to support your nervous system through your child's maybe heightened emotions or neediness or struggle with different family dynamics, or, the exhaustion that can sometimes come. So consider it, having a great toolkit and an energetic support through your Christmas season. So you can find out more about that at bridgetwood.life
/Christmas guide.
Or Christmas. Well, let's go.
What is it?
Let's go Christmas guide.
Okay, so bridgetwood.life /Christmas guide.
Yes.
Love it.
And what's going on in your world, Jules?
Well, actually, as we're recording this, because we pre-record, so if you're not in our free group, get in it, because you get all the pre-records and the live stream. So you can find that on Facebook. Just search your groups for Nourishing the Mother and we will pop up.
Mm-hmm.
But I am a couple of days away, which is what I've been tinkering away at, from releasing all of the blogs and the Create Your Own Hysterectomy Party kit, downloadable kit, so that you can create your own rite of passage for you or a loved one, so that you have everything that you need. As I have moved through this experience, that I've been very conscious in what's worked, what hasn't, what I've needed, what I was prepared for, what I wasn't prepared for, what this experience has looked like, because I really want to begin and be the voice of and have conversations with women who are moving through vaginal prolapse and hysterectomy journeys that perhaps even just like me, you certainly haven't come from that world. You didn't think you'd end up here. You don't know how to mitigate those two sides of your brain that are like, my body is perfect and also I need help. That I really just want to be the space where we can have those really conscious conversations, because you can absolutely use the best of both worlds of medicine, that being Western and alternative, and create the best health outcomes for yourself. But there's a lot of ego death in that process. Anyway, long story short, I am creating all of that. What I would love you to see.
So excited.
What I would love you to see is the hysterectomy kit, because I have put everything from my radically cool rite of passage, where I used humor and games and play. And so in that kit, I have put all of my downloadables. I have created templates for you to create your own. I have linked everything that I bought and where I purchased it from. It is your no-brainer kit of what took me essentially 6 months to put together. So if you're after a fun rite of passage process, then that's your kit for doing it. So you can find out more about that at julietenner.love /hysterectomy.
So amazing. So if you or someone you know is going through that journey, I would from being a close witness to Julie's processing and edges around this, I have no doubt that it's going to be such an incredible gift. So make sure that you
hope so. Yeah, I really hope it has a healing voice in the world, is what I'm hoping. And
remember to nourish the woman, to rock the family.
I was just going to say, you can find us on Nourishing the Mother and we would love to hear from you.
Oh, yeah, I was wondering what your and was, and I was like, this one, it could be another one.
Love to hear from you. Nourishing the Mother on all the places.
It is. And remember to nourish the woman, to rock the family.
And we'll see you next week when we continue to peel back the layers on your mothering journey.
Thank you so much for listening. We literally couldn't do this without you. Please share this podcast with anyone you think it would be medicine for.
If you desire to integrate your learnings practically and supportively into your life, then head on over to bridgetwood.life or julietenner.love to go deeper.
And if you feel like giving back a little to this free content, please rate us on iTunes or Facebook, all of which helps the podcast reach more mamas who need this type of tonic for the soul.